Terry Gerber. He is our special guest today, and he is live from the Lake Pleasant Discovery Center. And he is going to give us a tour of the center, and then we're going to be able to see some desert animals,
cool,
such as the desert tortoise, the rattlesnake, the Gila monster, right?
Yeah, and a nice big fat bass.
Yes, and a nice big fat bass. So go on, Terry, and take it away.
All right, thank you. So welcome everybody to Lake Pleasant. I wanted to start outside, but I was getting a little hot out there. Not me, but the phone was getting hot. So you'll get a real quick view of the lake, and then we're going to feed Mr. T, because Mr. T likes to get fed usually about 8 o'clock. So he's been waiting very patiently for his food. So we're going to go feed Mr. T, and Mr. T is really a really cool tortoise. So he's a tortoise that we've had at the Discovery Center for about 23 years. I've had him, so he knows me quite a bit. And so we're going to go ahead and see if Mr. T is hungry, and we got him a really nice salad with some prickly pear. It's really cool. So here we go. We're going to walk out the door here. I'm giving you a real quick look at the lake in the background. Oh, there you go. Like that, but we don't get the phone too hot. So
it's pretty full.
So if you could open that.
I'm going blind.
Okay, and then I'm going to switch this around real quick so you guys can see.
And I clicked on it, but I looked around and it's not showing up.
It's not doing it this time.
I think you have to hit switch camera view.
I got it right there.
Yep,
There we got it. Okay, so here we go. And let's see. Oh, there's Mr. T. Hi, Mr. T. Are you hungry? Say hi to everybody, Mr. T.
Oh,
look
cute.
Hi. Okay, and look what he gets here. Oh, I'm going to pull back and show you. Now that is a feast for a king. Look at that.
Oh, look at that.
Now I've known him for a long time, so what I'm going to do is I greet him. He sniffs me like a dog, and I pat him on the head. There you go. There you go, Mr. T. How you doing? Oh, he loves that. So
Mr. T, you must be hungry.
Oh yeah. So he normally eats about 8, so we held him back a little bit here, but he's been doing pretty good because he gets all sorts of different greens. And we had endive in there and romaine and some other different types of lettuce. And then we actually have some peppers in there. He loves the peppers. And they're just the sweet peppers. And then those 3 red things are prickly pear. And that's kind of like his dessert. He was hanging out in his jacuzzi. So let me show you his jacuzzi back there. Yeah, his little water dish back there. This is a little cave. I do have a rock in front because I didn't want him to go back in. That rock's normally not there. He gets to go back in his little shed. And then I'm going to back up a little bit so you can see his tent. Yeah, it kind of keeps him cool out here. This is his nice big compound. That's his summer home out there. That's actually his winter home, excuse me, out there. And this is his summer home under here. Pretty nice place, huh, for him?
Yep. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
Oh, he's hungry.
He is a hungry tortoise, isn't he? And he'll, believe it or not, he will eat most of that right there. So he's pretty good. He eats just about once a day.
Oh, wow.
He'll eat some of the natural foods out here. We grow certain bushes out here. So let me turn real slowly and show you a couple bushes I got out here growing. And he'll eat the sweet bush, and he'll eat, looks like he's already eaten this bush pretty good. So that bush right there is a glow mallow. He's got a couple bushes out here he will eat if he needs to. He actually likes this grass, but you can see the grass is not doing too good right now. So he even eats it when it's dry. So he's real happy when he gets his greens right here. Doing pretty good. So, all right, well, we're going to go inside.
Hey, Terry. Hey,
Yes.
Terry. We have a couple individuals with visual impairment. So could you describe stuff when you're looking at it? It's like this turtle that
Yes.
has a back like little pyramids and so forth like that.
Oh yeah,
That
so
would
he's
help.
got little pyramids back there, and his skin's really rough, and he's got these little scales on his head and stuff like that. And even though he looks like a turtle, he's actually a tortoise, so he's a land animal. So he doesn't like to swim or anything like that. He will drink a little water. He likes to sit in his water dish, but he doesn't actually, if you were to throw him in a lake, he'd actually drown. So he's not a turtle, he's a tortoise. But he looks like a turtle. You know, he's got the same feet as a turtle, but on the very front, instead of having pads on his feet that would actually move the water like turtles, he actually has claws. So if you see those claws right down there, I'm showing you right there. So those claws would dig. So he's a digger. So even though we made his compound, this little hole in here and stuff like that, where that rock is, he would actually normally make his own hole and dig into the limestone in cliffs and things like that. So
Why does he, and how much does he weigh?
Oh, he weighs about 10 pounds. So he weighs around 10 pounds, and he's about the size of a nice dinner plate. So.
Oh, wow.
Terry,
yeah, so he's pretty.
Terry, how long would it take him to eat all that salad?
He's going to eat that in about a half an hour.
Okay.
Yeah, half an hour or so. So he takes his time. He'll come back through the day. So I'll leave it out here. I'll usually push it in the shade, and he'll come back and eat that. But he picks and chooses. I give him multiple things because some days he likes one thing over another. So that's why I give him a mix of different things, because I let him choose what he wants to eat. So I don't expect him to eat all that all at once, but he'll come back later on and eat it. So he rarely wastes his food. He's a good boy. He eats his vegetables.
So you said you've had him for 23 years. How old was he when you got him?
He was about 10 years, because he's got about, he was 12 years old. Yeah, so he's 35 years old.
Wow.
So
and
he's 35 years old, but he doesn't look a day over 21. See?
How long did they live, Terry?
Oh, they'll live as long as we do. They'll live 80 years, 90 years. Yeah.
Wow.
They live quite a long
Oh,
time.
wow.
Yeah, they don't get very big. They're not like the Galapagos tortoises or something like that. But yeah, he's about the full size right now. But he will live a long time, and that's why Arizona Game and Fish has an adoption arm for Arizona Game and Fish. They'll actually adopt these out, because some people, you know, they don't. So they have people actually come in and adopt them out to somebody else. So if Mr. T.
I think our phone is
Game
getting
and Fish
a little
can have
bit
somebody else to
hot.
adopt them. So it's a pretty good program. Okay, I'm moving inside. Here we go.
Alrighty, awesome.
Thanks, Sarah, for keeping me on track.
That's okay. I just see you freezing a little bit.
Yeah.
So now we are going to move
real
inside
quick.
of the Discovery Center, and he is going to basically give us a full tour of the Discovery Center.
$20,000.
Yes. So this is a very, very expensive rock. It has a bunch of petroglyphs on it. It's probably one of the most expensive rocks in Arizona. So I'm allowing him to let his phone cool down just a little bit so that we can hear his audio again.
Yeah, how's it? Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, so it's starting to
Awesome.
cool down a little bit. That's good.
Can you
Great.
explain that rock to us and what it was? And maybe I can show a picture.
So you have a picture. Yeah, if you have a picture, it was up in our northern, that was in the amphitheater. So let's see. Go ahead and put you on here so you can hear me. And up in the auger, hillside, and we actually had light store, and she was watching the rock and making sure that rock, it weighs 3 tons. So this is a school bus. What causes this to roll down? Did people do that? Was it just natural? So when they were doing the investigation of the rock, they found out is because the next day they showed
Terry, hold on one moment. Just give me a pause. Is everyone else hearing him correctly, or is he skipping a little bit?
Still
I
breaking
think
up.
a little
A little. Give him some.
So Terry, you're breaking up a little bit.
Maybe if he tries reconnecting.
Can you try to reconnect?
Or closer to the modem or the,
Or move a little bit further into the building where we had more
Okay.
service?
yeah, he's too far from where services.
Okay. Any better now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe if you put your settings on with cellular as a backup too, you won't freeze as much.
Oh, I hear you.
Let's see if we try that now. Better or not?
I can
Better, Sam.
definitely hear you.
I can hear
Okay.
him.
Okay,
I can
so
hear you.
See anything now. It's frozen.
Yeah, it's frozen.
it's broken, so I need to restart it?
It's
Yes.
frozen.
So if you could restart your video because it's frozen, that would be
Okay.
awesome.
Restart it.
Max headroom.
Hey, Jerry?
Also, if you guys could turn off your audio unless you guys have a question, that would be awesome as well.
Sure.
My audio's still working.
Yes. So we just got to get your video back on.
Video back on.
Hello? Hi. I was able to see the turtle.
Terry?
Yeah, I hear you.
Alrighty.
You see me?
Yes, I see you.
Okay. Are we doing good?
The video is still frozen for me. I'm not
It is
sure.
for me, too.
Okay.
Well, let me get it, put it on picture here and see if there's a.
So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to share my presentation so that you can talk through it.
Okay, that'd be great. And mainly, you know, if they want to just ask questions, that would be a great thing too. If we can't go around the visitor center.
Absolutely. But we are going to go through a virtual visitor center right now. Okay.
It's not connected. I think the phone got too hot.
Okay, so again, that rock, you can kind of see it now.
Yeah, so that was our rock from the Agafria. And like I said, we actually had two gentlemen steal it. And it takes something to do that. So they had a backhoe, because it has all sorts of Indian writing on it, and they wanted it in their front yard. But unfortunately, the person put it in his front yard, and he had made his neighbor mad, and his neighbor called it in, and the sheriff department already knew about it, and they put two to two together, because there's not too many people that have a 3-ton rock with writing, Indian writing, in their front yard. So they said, oh, that must be the one from Lake Pleasant. So they came and they arrested him, and they ended up, it was one of the very few archaeology cases in Arizona that was prosecuted. And in doing so, they were able to find him $20,000. That's why we call it $20,000 rock. And they took away his pickup truck and his front loader, because he actually had a tractor front loader that actually put it into his truck. So he got what was coming to him, because you can't steal things. You got to leave them in the park. So what was that?
Did he go to jail?
He didn't go to jail because he went ahead and he confessed. And so he paid the fine. And so he did a plea bargain, and he stayed out of jail. He would have gone to jail if he would have got prosecuted, but they went ahead and said he knows he did wrong. He went ahead and paid the fee, and they also did confiscate anything that was due in the act of the crime, and that was his pickup truck and the back hoe. So that's exactly what they did. But it's an interesting story. This rock actually ended up being down at the Central Arizona Project yard for 17 years. 17 years it sat there. And finally, a worker discovered it and said, what's this rock with all this Indian writing? And they said, oh, that's one from Lake Pleasant. So then they said, well, call Lake Pleasant, see if they want it up there. So they called us, and I was the one who answered the phone. And I said, yes, we want that rock up here. So we were just starting to go through a new rechange of our visitor center. And from the Lake Pleasant Visitor Center to the Discovery Center. And we said, yeah, we'd like to put that in the front. So they went ahead and brought that up here. And they had to use a really big crane to hoist it into place and stuff. So that's why we have it in front now. So it's kind of a unique story. So that's our $20,000 rock at Lake Pleasant. So what are we looking at here? Okay, so one thing about Lake Pleasant is that connects everything is we actually have a lot of natural history and a lot of human history, and they combined through one main resource. And the main resource, as you know, because you need it all the time and the animals need it all the time, is water. So water is our underlying story that connects the natural resources, the wildlife, the plants, with the human resources, the pioneers, the miners, the homesteaders, the dam builders. All those people needed water. So this is a big story that's going on. So before the humans came out, out here, there were actually animals using this water for many, many, many decades. Then humans came out here. We actually had different types of Indians. So we have remnants of some archaic Indians out here, very primitive. Then the Hohokam, which you can see that picture in there, looks like farmers. They were very good farmers. They farmed down in the valley, right down where Phoenix is. We're called the Northern Periphery. We're kind of the northern area of the Hohokam. And they actually were great farmers. They also used the native fruits off the cactus. They had temporary beans. They actually had corn. They actually grew tobacco. So they were growing tobacco long before Europeans were growing it over here. So it was kind of interesting. They actually had a lot of different things because they had wild tobacco out here. So there's a lot of neat things that they were doing. They also hunted out here. So a lot of game that was out here. So later on, they actually started building structures. So up on top of a lot of our mesas, we actually have a lot of adobe structures. They're called pit houses, and they have walls. And one of the most famous ones out here is called Indian Mesa. So a lot of people go hiking up there. So Indian Mesa is one of the ones we go to. So, but there's a lot of remnants that we found out here. So I don't know if mine's coming through, but I'm showing you on my camera. Can anybody see that up in the corner of the Indian arrows and stuff, the Indian hits? So Sarah, can they see that or just yours? You there, Sarah? No.
I can see it.
Okay, you can see it. Okay, good.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So these are all different types of
Wow.
pottery and stuff that was found. They had seashells. They did a lot of treating out there. And also little stones they used for weaving. So if you look at that diagram there, weaving and stuff like that. So we always find that. So we leave it in the park because we study it still. So we actually have Indian Island out here. One of our islands actually has a lot of pottery on it. And we still study it today. So very important. So the Indians were here before, all the way up to the Yavapai people. So the Yavapai people had more of a wooden structures. They did. So it was the Yavapai people. And then later on, the Apaches came in. So the Apaches came in and they were here also. So we have the Apache and the Yavapai that were here later on. And we still see those people up in Prescott today. So they still are just north of the lake. But then the miners started coming in here and the ranchers. So we started seeing a lot of mining and ranching. So, and because of that, we actually had a couple really cool things. And I don't know if you can see my picture right here, but yeah, that one right down there with the fort. So there's with the guys standing out front, it's called Frog Tanks. And Frog Tanks was our stage stop. And that was in the 1880s. We actually had a stage stop there. And that's actually under the dam today, believe it or not. So that's over 100 feet of water over top of that. Isn't that incredible? But they used to stop here, water their horses and things like that. And that was because they wanted to come out and they wanted to go mining. So they had a lot of miners coming out and prospecting. And they also did a lot of surveying too. So we had surveyors come out, surveying this area because they knew that this was going to be a place where people were going to move out to. So it was Western expansion back in those days. So everybody was moving out. So, and it brought out some pretty rough characters too. Here's Jack Swilling. So, and he was one of the guys who helped name Phoenix Phoenix. And he was a a pretty rough character back in those days. So we actually had the cavalry also come in. So we had Fort Whipple. We also had Fort Misery, which was just above Lake Pleasant. And it wasn't called Fort Misery for no reason. It was a pretty miserable place to be. But some of the troops had to stay there. And then they got lucky if they got to be in Fort Whipple. Some would move on down to Fort McDowell. So most of you guys know where Fort McDowell is, just to the east of Phoenix there. So northeast of Phoenix. So, and then we made famous by having some really neat finds in the desert here. One was Castle Hot Springs. Castle Hot Springs was found first by Monroe, and then later on it was expanded by some of the brothers up in the Prescott area. And it's kind of interesting. It turned into a really elaborate resort. And it was run by Rosenfeld, and he ran it for many years, and he enticed a lot of people to come up. He enticed 4 presidents, including Kennedy and what was it? I can't think of the other ones. Hoover, I know Hoover came up. So there's a couple different presidents came up, and Roosevelt. Yeah, Roosevelt was there too. So he stayed there when he was building the Roosevelt Dam, when he came up to go ahead and christen the dam. So that was kind of neat. And then when President Kennedy was running for office, he came up and stayed up here. So it's kind of an interesting thing. So a lot of connections. And our mining history goes thick too. So we did a lot of hydraulic mining here because there was water here in the Agua Fria and all our side tributaries. We had the Humbug Creek and the Castle Creek, and they all came in with running water, and there was gold in those streams. So today the gold is very, very slight. We still get a few gold miners up here, but not a lot because it's so hard to work the ore. So it's just not worth it today. But we still see those people. So, but what that brought was a lot of our ranching and homesteading. So a lot of people lived up here. In those days, you could get 160 acres, and if you farmed it in 5 years, it wasn't going to cost you anything. So it was pretty nice. So you also had ranching up here. They ranched cattle, sheep, and goats. So those were the main ones. So the sheep was they had for the back in the 20s, they were using a lot of that for coats and things like that. And they had, the goats, back in those days, they liked goat milk a lot. And then for the cattle was big up here because one of the biggest cattle that actually came into being up here was Barizona. And Barizona was raised just north of Lake Pleasant. So we have a connection with a lot of our industry, and it was sold down in the stockyards in Phoenix. Today they call it the Stockyards Restaurant. So, but down in there, that's where the stockyards were. So a lot of different history here. So people were really coming into this area where we call Lake Pleasant. The lake wasn't here yet, but there were people starting to say, hey, you know, if we could get a pond of water, we could really grow some crops down in that Phoenix area. So they started looking at some areas just north of Phoenix, up in this area, and it was the Beardsleys. So if you see this gentleman standing up on the dam there, he's actually Mr. William Beardsley, and he was actually one of the predecessors of building the first dam out here. And we actually had Carl Pleasant was our engineer, and that's where you get the name Lake Pleasant from, was Carl Pleasant. So Carl Pleasant, that's his family right there. And this is the dam, the first dam they built. So yeah, so oh, there she goes, moving her. Okay, so that's, you can also see that we built a new dam too. So the new dam is the New Waddell Dam, and that was built. So the first dam was started in 1896 by the Beardsleys. And then later on, they had trouble building it, so it wasn't built until 1926, and it finished in 1927. And then they actually went ahead and had this larger dam come in the 1990s, and that was to hold the water for the Central Arizona Project. So a big difference.
Wow.
And you can see down that lower corner of Sarah's presentation, you can see the Waddell with the little tower that goes out there, the 2 towers. That's where the water comes in and out. In fact, right now, there's so much water going out that there's 17,000 gallons every second. So blink your eyes and think of 17,000 gallons. Yeah, right there. 17,000 gallons going out every time you can blink your eyes. That's a lot of water going out. So that's why our lake is a lot less water in it right now than it was back in March. So March is our high month and September is our low month. So we're heading toward our low month right now. So right now we're at 56% and we're about 42 feet down. But they say we'll go down to about 48 feet. So we got about 4 more feet to go. But it might go even more than that. So there's a lot of different remnants of the miners and stuff out here, and also the dam builders. So we find a lot of equipment out here too. So they bring it to our museum and we put it in our museum. It's kind of a neat thing. Well, one of the things they use the water for is recreation. So there's a huge history of recreation out here. So in the early days, we had horseback riding, we had boat ramps. We actually had a guest ranch right in the middle there where you see that white building there. That's called the Lake Pleasant Guest Ranch. And it ran from the 1920s all the way into 1969 when they turned it over to the park. And it was competing with Castle Hot Springs. So they did have a swimming pool, but they didn't have the hot springs. So it didn't compete very well with Castle Hot Springs. But they did bring in a lot of people and they had a lot of fun doing it. But mainly boating, swimming, fishing were our main things out here at Lake Pleasant, and they still are today. So we're just a larger lake. So our original lake from 1927 till 1992 was about 10,000 acres. So today, or excuse me, it was 3,000 acres. Today, our new lake is 10,000 acres. So we've grown quite a bit. So 7,000 acres more, it's quite a bit. So let's go out and take a look at that lake right now. So, okay, oh, better, okay. She's telling me don't go out in the heat. So we're gonna look through the window here. So can anybody see my picture up in the corner?
Yeah.
Also,
so
if you can't see this very clearly, I have the same exact images on my shared screen as well.
Okay, good. So a lot of human history out here. Today, we still see it expanding more and more. They actually want to put additional dams in here. Most of the dams they want to put in here now are for wildlife. So they put those in so that they can protect the native fish and things like that. So we do have an extensive amount of wildlife here, and they depend on the water too. So in fact, we had a bighorn sheep here for a while, and we've seen mountain lions here. Look at that little critter right there. Oh.
Do you guys have like great horned owls out there?
We do. We have great horned owl. We also have pygmy owls, and we have a screech owl out here. So yeah, I love it when you guys ask me questions. So anybody wants to ask me questions as we're going along, that's really great. I love it. So, so Sarah's got up a lot of our wildlife up there right now. So we see quite a bit of the wildlife out here. Like I said, our largest ones are our cats, our bobcats, our mountain lions. We do have javelina out here, our coyotes, of course. We have the different rabbits and stuff. We have a lot of night animals. So we have ringtail cats, raccoons, skunks, things that come out at night. So they love to raid the campers at night out here in our campground. So we do have some gray fox out here. And then we have a lot of the smaller squirrels and rodents and things like that. So we do have an interesting, our newest animal that we've seen out here. It came up from Tucson. It actually migrated up through Mexico up into there. It's a coatimundi. So coatimundi looks like a big, huge monkey, raccoon kind of animal. So you have to look that up on Google and show you what a coatimundi looks like, because we do have those out there now. We don't have a picture on the wall here because it's brand new. We've only seen one so far. So, but it's kind of neat. They're starting to expand up into this territory. So we are still seeing some new animals and stuff. So kind of interesting. So, and let's see here. So anyway, a lot of people understand that it's tough to live in the desert, especially now with this 110, 115 degree weather. It's really tough to live out here. But the animals and the plants seem to be surviving out here. They survive a lot, and we try to help them out in ways. So we've built a couple fish barriers. We've built a couple little teeny fences for the tortoises so they don't get onto the road. So when you see these little teeny fences along our road at Lake Pleasant, they're not for humans because humans can step right over them. They're for the desert tortoises, so they don't go into the road. So it's kind of neat. So we have our own little fences for desert tortoises. We have our fish barriers to keep the little fish upstream from the big fish. And the big fish are our non-natives. They're our bass, and they're going to be our bluegill and our carp and things like that. And they'll eat the small fish. And the small fish are like your dace and your top minnow and your little Gila top minnow. There's also the desert pupfish. Those are all small fish that live in our side streams. And so our side streams we protect pretty good. And that's why we have a couple of those small dams up there to keep those in there. And we have Arizona Game and Fish help us out with regulating those, making sure we always have those small fish up there. If they deplete too much, we actually have them come and they'll bring some in and actually reinstate them. So every once in a while, Game and Fish will bring some of those fish in there. And they support a lot of other wildlife, a lot of our bird wildlife and things like that. So it's very important that we actually keep those fish going for the habitat and also to keep the ecosystem, things like that going. So you can see she's got that up right now. It shows the small fish up in there. So you got that little, most of them, if you look at the long-fin dace, the one in the lower left-hand corner, that's the one we have mostly in our streams out here. But we do have these other ones also. And they're kind of unique to our ecosystem, and we want to try to keep those. So we do protect those and ask people not to do anything in our side stream. So if you are going to put some shampoo in your hair, it's best to be, make sure it's biodegradable, and you only do it in the main part of the lake, because out in the side streams, we don't want nothing in there. So it's kind of like if you went river rafting, you never put anything in the side stream. Oh, look at this. We got some, so now Sarah's put up some of our larger fish, and these are our non-natives. They were all put into the lake, and it's really kind of neat because they actually are what our fishermen go for. So we have our largemouth bass. We actually have our carp. So here's our carp and our buffalo fish. And now look at this. We have our crappie and our white crappie. So we actually have the state record on the white crappie out here. So let's see what else we got up here. We also have the state
mussels
record.
Doing?
Oh, the mussels, they're doing really well. Although we noticed that a lot of them are dying. So I'm a scuba diver, so I help put up the chains on the different docks and stuff. And the last time we dove, we noticed there were lots and lots of them that were dead. So I'm not sure if that's just a natural or they're starting to die out on us. So, but the quagga mussels are still in the lake. We still ask people not to transport them to any of the other lakes that don't have them. So there's a striped bass. That's our biggest one in here. And that bass you're looking at there was a state record 3 records ago. It's actually been broke here at this lake 3 different times. So Lake Pleasant has owned the state record for this fish 4 different times. And so it just keeps getting bigger. So pretty amazing. So we do have some pretty good bluegills and things like that too. So there's a nice sized bluegill there. That's a state record there. And we have 2 kinds of catfish. So there's your channel catfish. That's the main one there. So, and let me show you this big catfish here. That's a flathead catfish. So flathead catfishes get very large. And the one that, this one was about a 60 pounder, but there's been one that was caught over at Bartlett Lake that was 75 pounds. Wow. So a 75 pound catfish. So that'd take your arm off if you were noodling. But the catfish out here at Lake Pleasant, they've constantly been catching 60 and 65ers. So Catfish Charlie says that the next big one's going to come out of Lake Pleasant. So I'm holding him to that. So now this is one of the biggest fish that we like to catch out here as fishermen. It's the largemouth bass. And the largemouth bass love to eat. They eat a lot. And we actually have a live largemouth bass right in our tank right here. So I want you to meet Mr. Piggy. This is Mr. Piggy. Can you all see that?
Oh, he's a beautiful fish.
Yeah, he's a beautiful fish. So he likes to eat there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give him a few worms. So can you hold that, Nance?
How many gallons is that fish tank?
It's 400.
Wow.
So you guys are going to help me feed? Is that okay? Okay. So here comes a worm. Oh, did you see that?
He's
He likes
hungry.
his worms. Okay, so here's a worm. You see it? Whoa.
What kind of worms are you feeding them, Terry?
These are regular earthworms. It's like a regular earthworm, just like that.
What
You
else
see it in
does
there?
what else does it eat?
Oh, he likes minnows, and he likes, he'll also eat some of the smaller worms too, the mealworms. There he goes. Eats it up. Give him a couple
So how
more
big
here.
is this one?
He's about 4 pounds now. So, and he knows it too, because he knows that he's edible now. But we're not going to eat him. So, you
What
missed it
kind
there.
of things
There
do you put in the tank? I see a lot of different things in the tank. To make it feel more comfortable.
Yeah, we actually have a lot of structure down in here. So it actually is so he can hide and stuff. He usually doesn't like to hide, but the Plotamus, which is a tank cleaner, he's down in here hiding right now. You can't see him. He's a blackfish, and he actually helps keep the tank clean. And he really likes to hide in this stuff. So we have that, but it makes it more of a natural home for it, because bass, they like to ambush their prey. So usually they're not going to be out just like he is right here. They're going to be out among a tree. So when I'm scuba diving, I actually tell the fishermen, I said, if you see a tree in the water, that's where you want to fish, because I always see a tree, a bass by a tree. So that's where they like to hide. So this is all remnants of him hiding. There you go. Wow, he caught that before you even hit the water. That's pretty good. Okay, one more here. Then I want to show you some of my other little critters here. You ready for this one? Oh, good. Come back. There, you got it. All right. There you go. So say bye to Mr. Piggy. All right. So I got 2 other friends over here you want to see. So I have a Gila monster, and he's actually shedding. Can you all see that?
Yeah.
So what you see on his back is his skin. He's starting to shed there. So that's a Gila monster. And the Gila monster is the largest lizard in our desert. And he actually, he's a digger. He likes to dig. And he stores a lot of his fat in his tail. And he does have venom. He's one of 2 lizards in North America that have venom. So we have a beaded lizard, and then we also have the Gila monster. So the beaded lizard mainly lives down in Mexico. So really the Gila monster is the only one up in the United States that we even have to worry about. And you really don't have to worry about these guys, because look how slow he is. He's very, very slow. You just don't want to put your hands in their mouth. So
How long is he?
Yeah, I don't think that'd be a good idea.
No, it would not be a good idea. That's exactly it. But he's mainly a specialist. And what we call a specialist means he likes to go from hole to hole looking for eggs and little babies. And that's what he eats. So he goes and he eats maybe bird eggs or reptile eggs and things like that. So it's kind of interesting. So he's too slow to catch something usually. So
How long is he?
He's about 1 foot long.
Okay.
And this is about what size they'll get. Yeah, you can see his big tail there with the stripes on it.
Are they always the same color?
No, they can vary. They're from an orange to a pinkish color. And they do have that black in there. So sometimes you'll mistake a baby chuckawalla, which is our 2nd largest lizard out here, and it's a non-venomous lizard. And the chuckawalla has more black, but it will have rings on its tail. So, there he is. He's looking at you. So, see his tongue coming out? So they have a forked tongue, and that's what they look for food.
Wow.
So, yeah, look at that. Pretty slow animal. So chances are, if you see one, you don't need to run or anything. Just respect it. You're just not going to pick it up. So you always just leave it alone. So, but at the same time, it's a beautiful animal. And I wish he wasn't shedded, and you see a little bit more of his color there. But you can see some of it broken through over up on his back there. You can see what his color would be. Yes. Oh, okay. Yeah, Nancy says I got a picture down here. So I'm going to come down here and show you what he looks like when he's nice and bright and clean. There you go. So that's what the Gila monster would look like.
Oh, wow.
He doesn't have all his skin. And that color pretty much tells.
Very vibrant yellows and oranges.
Yes. Yeah, they're more
Or
they're more going to be
pinkish?
orange to pink. The
Okay.
yellow is going to be more of the Mexican beaded lizard.
And how long do they get again?
They get about a foot. They can get a
Got it.
little bit more, a foot and a half, but that's about it. So they're not going to be too huge. But for a lizard, that's pretty long. That's pretty big.
Right.
And, so they do have a very powerful jaw, so you do not want to get bit by them. But very few people would get bit because you really got to try to get bit by these guys. Usually by mistake, a rock climber putting their hand where they don't see it or something like that. So usually they will hiss and everything before they bite. So they're usually going to give you a warning. So they get a lot of bad rap, but they're really not they're a good animal because they eat a lot of rodents and stuff like that. So a lot of rodent eggs and things like that. So, and they are protected in Arizona. So there is a huge, unfortunately, there's a huge illegal trade in Gila monsters. So Game and Fish has to work very hard to try to keep people from stealing them from our desert. So unfortunately.
Wow.
So, all right, are you guys ready for another animal?
What do you guys feed them?
Yeah.
Oh, we feed them little baby mice, quail eggs, and small lizards. We have a little lizard trap sometimes. We'll do that. So, but mainly they love quail eggs, and they also like the small little teeny pinkies, stuff like that. Okay, so look who's in this hole. Who do you think that is in there?
A rattlesnake?
Yeah, it's a western rattlesnake. Yeah, western rattlesnake in there.
He was very, very intimidated by me.
Yeah.
When I went over there.
Yeah, Sarah has a great video of it, so maybe you'll run that far there, Sarah. That's really cool. So, but yeah, he's a western diamondback. He's about 2 feet long, and now he might actually be about 3 feet long because we got him when he was 2 feet, and he has been growing. So, and he gets the full size mice, and he'll eat about four every 3 weeks. So that's pretty good in there. So, and this is his little habitat. He crawls around in the rocks and stuff like that. So the main thing with rattlesnakes is they don't really want to bite you or anything, but if you accidentally step on them, they will bite you. So when you're out in the desert, make sure you always watch where you put your hands and feet. So that's important. So get you a picture of him down here. Yeah, you can see him right there. His rattle and his diamonds on his back there. So the diamond rattlesnake, he actually is the most prevalent out here in the desert. So we do have a tiger rattlesnake, and we also have a couple other rattlesnakes out here, a Mojave and stuff like that, but they're more rare than the western diamondback. So I'm going to open it up for questions as we go through. Is there any questions you guys have? So we have a few minutes remaining, so I can answer any questions from you guys.
How long do western diamondback rattlesnakes live?
They can live in captivity. They live approximately about 10 years, or excuse me, they can live up to 20 years. Out in the wild, they live about 10 years, and they usually get picked off. So, but I had Freddie, the rattlesnake, for about 12 years, and then he got cancer, believe it or not. So that was kind of interesting. I didn't know rattlesnakes could get cancer, but I guess anything can get cancer. So.
Did he die?
Oh yeah, we actually had to put him down because he had a big growth in him.
Oh
yeah,
man.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they do like their heat lamps. So he's just, this is the Gila monster. He's just basking here on that.
Hey, Terry, can you show, we talked a little bit about mussels. Can you show how invasive they are and what they do to the, the pipes in the docks and stuff?
Come on over here. Yep, we do have that little display over here. Don't make you dizzy when I'm moving here though. There you go. So this is our display on the quagga mussels. So they're a sister of the mussels that you see up in the large lakes up in the northwest, and they're the quagga and going blank on my mussels right now, but they're the can't think of the, what's the other mussel? Zebra mussel, thank you. Yeah, the zebra mussel. So the zebra mussel is the larger mussel, and it's in the Great Lakes. And this mussel came in through ships from Ukraine. And they actually, when they released their ballast water into the water, it actually got in here. And it's slowly been making its way to the west. So it's kind of interesting because if you look, here's a new pipe. And then when it went in the water, only 2 months, you're starting to get some stuff on it. And in 4 months, got a little bit more. You can start seeing it caking up and stuff like that. And by 6 months, look at it. Oh my goodness. And you can see even the inside of that, how it would clog pipes up. So believe it or not, this does have an effect on the water quality and also the structure of the dam, because the dam actually has to be cleaned every so often because of these quagga mussels. Because if you look through these pipes, see how much water you could get through this pipe? But by the time you get to this one, there's a lot less. And it can actually clog that pipe up completely. So the big tunnels where I told you that 17,000 gallons a second we're going through would start plugging up, believe it or not, because these things actually can clog up pretty good, pretty fast, because this was only in 6 months, this little pipe here. We've actually found chairs and things like that that were totally covered in the lake. Kind of interesting. But there always is good things with invasive species. You know, we always focus on the negative things, of course, because, you know, they take away a lot of the nutrients for the fish. So you have less small fish. And that means your larger fish aren't going to have as many small fish to eat. So that's a negative fish, you know, a negative effect on the fish. Also, it clogs up the motors on boats. So a lot of our boaters now have to take their boats out. They have these lifts that they lift their boats out in the marina. So that's a negative effect. But it's interesting because there are a few positive things. So I always think it's kind of interesting to think that you could possibly have a positive thing with an invasive species, but you can. And one of them is our lake actually is prettier than it ever has been because it's a filter feeder and it filters out all the nutrients. And what happens is it allows the light to go into the lake. So what happens is it makes the lake a lot prettier. So it's pretty interesting. So our lake gets really, really pretty colors now compared to when I worked here. I've been here for 25 years. And when I first came here, the lake was always a dark blue. It never changed hardly at all. Now I see aquamarines, I see kind of greenish color and stuff like that. So it's kind of unique. It also is great for scuba diving. When I first came out here, nobody wanted to scuba dive in Lake Pleasant because it only had like 5 foot of visibility because there was so much stuff in the water. Well, now that we have the quagga mussel, it's filtering all these nutrients out and we get to see clearer in the water now as scuba divers. So now we have like 20 different scuba shops that actually do their certification at Lake Pleasant. So it's kind of amazing. So we have a lot of different other types of invasive species beside the quagga mussels, like our tamarisk. And our tamarisk grows alongside the lake. And a lot of our trees died when we made the new lake because the water rose up and killed a lot of our trees. So we didn't have any trees in the desert. But the first tree to grow, the fastest tree to grow, was the tamarisk. So it formed a tree for people to picnic under, for fishermen to fish by, for shade and things like that. So here was an invasive species that actually had a good quality about it. So sometimes invasive species, yeah, they're mostly bad, but sometimes they do have some qualities that actually we as humans can actually use. They're also a pretty tree too. If you've ever seen the tamarisk in bloom, it's a very bright pink color. So it actually is pretty. So when people are out here looking at the flowers in the spring, they say, wow, what is that pretty tree over there? And I have to say, well, that's an invasive species. They say, well, it's pretty anyway. So it's kind of neat.
So how did those mussels come into the lake?
They actually, the original ones came from the ships from the Ukraine. And then what happened was they actually came across by boats. Boaters brought them in.
So boats that were coming into the lake, they were attached and then they got into the water.
Yeah, they attached into the water, yeah. And that's why we have a law today called Don't Move a Mussel. It means that you have to clean, drain, and dry your boat before you take it to another lake. So if I was to take my boat out of Lake Pleasant, I have to clean, drain, and dry it before I take it over to Roosevelt Lake because Roosevelt Lake does not have the mussels. And if you're caught on the road, then you get a fine. But most people do it because they just don't want to transport the mussel to a lake that doesn't have it. Unfortunately, the mussels are on the move. We've seen them come into Canyon Lake and Apache Lake. So Roosevelt's one of the last few lakes that does not have them. But Lake Powell got it 3 years ago. Lake Mead was the first lake in Arizona to get it. And we're connected through the canal system. So since we put the Central Arizona Project Canal in, we're the holding tank. Lake Pleasant is a holding tank for the Central Arizona Project Canal. That's the Colorado River water. So we bring that water in. Well, because we were bringing that water in from Lake Mead, we got the mussels. So we originally got the mussels not from a boat. We actually got it from the canal. But a lot of lakes do get it from boats like that. So that's how they pretty much spread. Usually will spread mostly through the canal system or through boats transporting them from lake to lake. So that's it. So, got any questions? Anybody?
Yeah, Terry?
Yes.
When I went camping back at Lake Pleasant many, many years ago, no question, but it's common. Many years ago, I went to a camp, a school camp, and they had buildings and trees there until the lake, and now I think it's all underwater.
Yes, that is actually, that was the old camp, and I'll take a picture. Let me go over to it right here. This is what I was talking about earlier. So do you recognize this place, Nora?
Let me see.
I'll get up real close for you. But
Yeah.
that right there is the old Lake Pleasant Guest Ranch. And that was turned over to us in 1969. And then what happened is we took a few years to rehab it and turn it in for school kids to come to it. And then we started up in 1972. And it lasted until the 1980s. We actually ran it as an educational facility. And that's at the lower lake there. And that's the one you're talking about. We also have one called the Desert Outdoor Center, and it's now at the upper part of our lake. And the Desert Outdoor Center now still functions as an education facility. Unfortunately, because of the COVID, we've shut it down for now because we weren't getting any school kids to come out. But that was the Desert Outdoor Center is the offspring of the Guest Ranch, which we used to call the Lake Pleasant Outdoor Education Center. So. And it was mainly for school kids, but other groups could rent it. But before that, it was actually used as a dude ranch. So people would come up and ride their horses and go up to Mount Pleasant, see things like that. So good one, Nora. Yeah, and a lot of people don't know about the old education facilities out here.
That's right. And I was there in the 70s.
Yes, and that's when it was operated. In the 70s. So in the 70s is when it was operated. And yep, so that's where you were at, is that camp there. So you probably had a gentleman named Fritz. He was the predecessor before me. And Ranger Fritz was the one who ran it. And every once in a while he'd come in here and see the new facilities too. Actually, I started as a ranger at the new facility, the Desert Outdoor Center. And that's where I taught for 4 years. I taught school kids. And I decided to move over here and with the campers and all the swimmers and fishermen. So if you see that long looking thing looks like a snake, that's not. That's the Central Arizona Project Canal. So that's what brings our water to Lake Pleasant. So now we do get about 20 to 40% of our water from our natural watershed, okay? So usually more toward 20%. So 80 to 60% is actually brought in through this canal into the lake from the south side. And so I'm gonna pull this away again and show you in real life. I'm gonna come over to our big window here. Okay, so here's our lower lake. So just to get you orientated, everybody. So there's our lake, and that's the two towers that put in the water in the canal system. And so this is our dam. And so as I move down toward the south, there's a lower lake down here. That's the old lake. And that's where we used to use for agriculture. So, because mostly the old lake was just agriculture water. Today, our water is used for everything, industry, for drinking water, everything. Now, even though we get anywhere between 60 and 80% of our water from the Central Arizona Project, this water still only makes up about 40% of the water in Arizona. We still get a lot of our water from our natural resources in the White Mountains and the Verde River. So that's our natural water. And you guys know it as the Salt River Project. So Salt River Project still furnishes most of our water. The Central Arizona Project is very important because we would not have enough water without that additional water. And where do we store it? We store it right in that big lake there, Lake Pleasant. And that's the towers. So if I scan back over here, try not to make you too dizzy there, you'll see that long serpent again over there. And that's the canal that brings the water in. So all the way out there.
Now, like, is that an accessible trail leading to that?
So, yeah, that little trail, that sidewalk there is actually an accessible trail that goes down to our patio. We got a really cool patio out here. So we actually have people come out. Let me see. See that patio? Awesome patio. Yeah, so you guys come out.
Do they have wheelchair accessible areas out there?
Not a lot. I have been barking for more accessible areas. So I think because we have this nice visitor center, we need to have a very nice accessible trail. So I have been trying to get an accessible trail here for years, and that is on the dockets, but it's not moving fast enough. So I will keep doing that. It's something I really want to do, is to get that accessible trail in
Yeah,
here.
we got a lot of visitors, some in wheelchairs.
Yeah, and just not even besides that, you know, besides the wheelchairs, you have just a lot. We're next to Sun City and Sun City West. We have a lot of elderly people, and they need to get down to places too. So what I've proposed is to put in an accessible trail that goes down to the water, and I'll show you out in here, okay, past that big swirl out there. So, and that's actually going to be a fishing dock too, and it will be accessible. So that's what has been proposed. We're trying to get the money for it, and hopefully that'll come soon. So that's what we're looking for, because then the trail would zigzag down, and on the corners would be interpretive signage. So you could stop and you could look. So on the way up, when you need to rest, you could rest and read some things on the way up. And it would all be an ADA trail. It wouldn't be very steep. And then when you get to the dock, it would be a fixed dock. So sometimes there would be water underneath the dock, and other times there wouldn't be any water underneath the dock. So sometimes it would be fishable and sometimes it wouldn't, but it'd always be a place where you could actually still view the lake. It'd always be very scenic. And so that's what we want. We didn't want a floating dock because up and down, it wears away and stuff. In a couple of years, you may not have the dock. So I'd like to put in a regular dock. So that's the proposal. Is it moving fast enough for me? No, but at least we're working on it. So that's great. It's great for you guys to campaign that too. Yeah, tell them what you guys want, because definitely that's what we want to get, those accessible trails. But like I said, we have put in a couple of these accessible sidewalks in here that lead you down to the picnic area and stuff. And those we have right now, but we would like to add more. So good, I like that.
Do we have any more questions for Terry?
Terry, I was going to my photos and I found some photos. Remember when we did that bird release like a bunch of years ago?
Oh, where was it at?
We did that bird release up at Lake Pleasant. Like, was that Falcon or something like that? Me, you, and Nancy?
Oh yeah, that was Adobe Mountain Wildlife. That was one of our programs.
I found some photos in a kayaking folder of mine. I should send some to you.
Excellent, excellent. That'd be great. Yeah, always send the photos to me. I love that.
Terry,
yes.
Someone asked, who can we contact regarding maybe getting that accessible trail or helping you with that campaign to get that accessible trail and dock put on?
Good question. Yes, you can contact our director and let him know your concerns on that. And you can go on to Maricopa County Parks and Rec website. So you can just Google Maricopa County Parks and Rec site. You can, and then go off the director and get him RJ Carden. So RJ Carden is that. And the supervisor out Lake Pleasant also you can contact. So, and their names and phone numbers are right on that website. So just go to, it's Maricopa County Parks.net. So MaricopaCountyParks.net, and then RJ Carden would be the person that you'd want to contact. Just let them know that you're looking for a lot of accessibility issues for the park that you'd like to help out with. And that would be great, because we could always use people helping us out with that.
That would be awesome. I definitely will put that information also in the description of this video for our YouTube channel, and when I post the follow-up Facebook and social media posts as well. So hopefully we can help you out with that.
Excellent, Sarah. Appreciate that.
Any other questions for Terry?
I do have one real quick one. The tamarisk, is that the same invasive species that the Grand Canyon is experiencing along the river?
Exactly, yeah. It's one of their invasive species too, yeah. It's called the salt cedar, and it actually grows alongside the edges of the Colorado River, and it sucks out a lot of water. They say there's over 1.5 million acre-feet of water that gets sucked out each year. So they've tried to get rid of them. They burned them out. They've taken them out with chemicals. They've taken everything, and guess what? They just keep coming back. So they're very hard to get rid of once they have them. That's why it's really important not to have invasives come to a place that doesn't have them. So we want to try to keep invasives away, but once you have them, they're harder to get rid of. So the Colorado River probably is going to have tamarisk there. I don't think they're ever going to get rid of them, because they get them rid in one area, and then what happens is the seeds float down the stream and they implant and they grow again. So it's really hard They have tried, though. They have tried to get rid of them, but it's just not working out as much. So they are trying to grow other things down there. So if they put other plants in there, maybe they'll outcompete the tamarisk. So they're trying to put some cottonwoods and some willows and things like that in there. So there is different management going on right now that they're trying. So they're also trying to scour the beaches too. So every about 4 years, they let a lot of water out of the dam, and it scours those beaches. It knocks all those tamarisks down and pulls them out and leaves a better beach. So they've tried that too. So there's different management that they're looking. It's not always as successful. So yeah, the tamarisks are there, and they're around almost every lake in Arizona, unfortunately, Jerry.
Yeah, well, thanks for that.
Hey, Terry, how long has that park been open?
Okay, Lake Pleasant was opened in the 1960s. So even though we were a lake back in 1927, okay, it was run by the Maricopa Water District, which was the Beardsleys, and they ran it as an agriculture lake. It mainly was to furnish water. And so you remember in the 1920s and 30s, you're usually not going to have too many people out here because you had the Depression, and then in the 40s you had the war. So it wasn't until the 50s people started recreating. So they finally decided, well, we manage water, we don't really manage recreation. So they asked the county to step in and manage the recreation part of the lake, and that's what happened. So we had the lower lake and the upper lake for many years, from the 1960s all the way into the 1990s. And then they started building a new dam. They came in here in the 1980s and started building the dam, and they finished it off in 1992. So in 1993, we actually became a newer lake, and Maricopa County was asked to continue to go ahead and manage the lake for recreation. So we manage the lake for recreation. Maricopa Water District still, they also have recreation now too, but they also manage water. And then we also have the Central Arizona Project, which manages majority of the water. So 80% of the water that comes out of here. So did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much, Terry. So I just want to be understanding of everyone's time, since we've gone a little bit over and it's 12:02. Thank you, Terry, so much. And thank you, Nancy, for being such a great assistant. This tour was awesome. Next week, we do have Wild at Heart coming on.